will now come to order. The Pledge of Allegiance will now be said by Chief of Staff Thornton, followed by a moment of silence and reflection.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence. You may be seated.
The clerk will call the roll. Please correct the pronunciation of your name if it is incorrect.
Aloko. Anderson. Ashmore. Baldinger. Brazier. Costello. Coulomb. Koviak. Creedon. Cumby. Topolito. Davis. Dorsey. Dorsnowski. Erler. Freer. Fry. Govan. Gay. George. Gopel. Hopkins. Hunter. Iftikhar. Jacobson. Cassetti. Keenan. Kern. Kirby. Lapsley. Lewis. Matthews. Miles. Pigford. Sams. Sanders. Santiago Cedillo. Schmidt. Spurgeon. Silkert. Tapia. Talaka. Violet. Von Cannon. Walker. Wisenant. Watley.
With the quorum being present, is there a motion to approve the Journal of April 16th, 2025 as found online? Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. We are now in line for general orders of the Senate, beginning with reports from Senate leadership. Speaker Pro Tempore Miles, you are recognized to administer a report on the Rules Committee.
Hey y'all, happy last Senate. I'm proud of you guys. So I have a bit of a longer piece today. So we went over 8 pieces of legislation this Monday at 7 p.m., one of which was found unfavorable. I'm continuing with my one-on-ones throughout the summer, so make sure that you get in on that because I'm also choosing delegation chairs over the summer to be announced at our first Senate session back. So if you have any interest in that, please do personally message me on GroupMe with any interest. And then also, we are doing another committee today. It's the Summer Advisory Committee. So basically, it's a group of senators. Anybody can join in the body. We're going to meet a couple times over the summer just to basically touch in with the execs who are still here on campus and pass that information to other senators, as well as pass other senators' questions and or concerns back to the exec board. So if you do want to join that, just motion to add yourself during the motion period to the Summer Advisory Committee. It's low time commitment, and their absences, if you do rack up any, don't count to your overall absence of attendance. And with that, I yield to questions.
The Speaker Pro Tempore yields your time to questions. Are there any questions for the Speaker Pro Tempore? Seeing none, thank you. And to clarify, that's online, unlike Teams or Zoom. We will now hear a report from the Academics Committee. Chairperson Koviak, you are recognized.
Hey everybody, so we met yesterday at our normal time. We just did a small group of things. We've approved SBL 117-22, topic of like extending library hours. We've also confirmed the Secretary of Trans-Student Affairs. Past that, everyone in the committee so far plans to continue working on legislation over summer, so if there's anything you're interested in, please reach out to anyone on the committee and we can talk about stuff. But past that, I moved for questions. Sorry.
The chairperson yields their time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We will now hear a report from the Finance Committee. Chairman Matthews, you are recognized.
Hi everybody. So Finance met on Friday. We reviewed somewhere around 8,000 closer to $10,000, and of that were approved $8,962. That is all in the bill. I know some senators wanted to debate the funding for the Jesse Pinkman conglomerate, so what I'm going to do is break that bill into two, so we can pass the penultimate finance bill for the semester, and then we can debate the bill that'll include only the Jesse Pinkman conglomerate. So that's gonna, just a heads up, that's what that will be. And then finally, we talked about the, what would you call it, the point system for partial funding that I know that there's been some contention about. We talked about that on Friday. We came up with some great ideas. Aaron had some excellent ideas. Ash had some great ideas. We will be meeting a few times over the summer to talk about this with Ashley, to come up with a system that works for everybody, because at the end of the day, we need partial funding. We went through $340,000 this year, and it really wasn't that hard. So with $180,000, like with the way things went this year, we would run out at least by December, if not before that, which would be a huge disservice to organizations who put on events in the spring. So partial funding, at the end of the day, we need to find a way to do it. We have the power to partially fund events now, but we don't have a system for doing that, guaranteeing that bias will not be present. So some kind of system is what we're looking for that works for everybody, and that's ultimately what this whole thing has been about. So we talked about that on Friday, and we're going to continue discussions over the summer so that when August comes, we have something in place that will allow us to effectively manage this massive sum of money. So with that, I yield to questions.
The chairman yields his time to questions. Are there any questions for the chairman? Seeing none, thank you. We will now hear a report from the Health and Safety Committee. Chairwoman Cumby, you are recognized.
Hi y'all. So we met last Friday from 1 to 2 and discussed our action plan for the upcoming semester, which includes distributing drink testing kits in October, as well as offering immunization against the flu in November, and then kind of continuing a menstrual product drive going into January and February. We're also going to be revamping our menstrual product tracking system. So Senator Watley and I created a Google form and a QR code so that you can actually track if the box is empty. And so we'll be implementing that this Friday, and they'll actually be filled again. And then finally, we found SBL 11724 by Senator Sanders unanimously favorable. I yield my time for questions.
The chairwoman yields her time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We will now hear a report from the Judiciary Committee. Chairwoman Diapolito, you are recognized.
Hey guys, Judiciary met this week on Tuesday at 6 o'clock because we had an interview at 6 and then an interview at 6:30. We interviewed Elijah Butcher for position of Chief Justice, and we interviewed Kelly Grove for the position of Director of Federal Advocacy Bureau. They were both found unanimously favorable, Elijah Butcher with 2 abstentions, Kelly Grove with 1 abstention. They both had a lot of experience under their belt in what they're going to be going into, and very much knew what their duties would be. After that, we went on with our normal meeting. We didn't have any legislation to review, so we just kind of went over what our big plans, our little plans, everything is for when we come back next semester, and started thinking about personal goals we want to set for when we come back next semester to go into. And I yield my time with questions.
The chairwoman yields her time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We will now hear a report from the Liberties and Representation Committee. Chairwoman Hopkins, you are recognized.
Hi everyone. Okay, I'm not gonna touch or move the mic. Happy last Senate session. Liberties and Representations met last Thursday. It was our last meeting of the semester, but I'm probably gonna reach out to everyone over the summer, see how everyone is doing. If they need anything from me, maybe start doing some more research over the summer, because I know I'm gonna be bored, so if anyone wants to help me. But anyways, we finished our very first committee-wide piece of legislation, which is going to be hitting the floor today. And I ask anyone who feels comfortable, who helped write it, if you all feel fine to come up here and talk about it with me when it's the first reading calendar, go ahead. That would be great. And otherwise, I yield the remainder of my time to questions.
The chairwoman yields her time to questions. Are there any questions for the chairwoman? Seeing none, thank you. We will now hear a report from the Powers and Responsibilities Committee. Chairwoman Anderson, you are recognized.
Hi guys, I hope everyone's doing well. Powers and Responsibilities had 4 interviews this week. We interviewed Kelly Grove for the position of Director of Federal Advocacy and she was favorable. We interviewed Marshall Pigfort and Daniel Violet to the position of Vacant Seat Senator and they were both favorable. And then we interviewed Ryan Jasper for the position of Vacant Seat Senator and he was unfavorable. On this one, we were just looking for a little bit more passion, a bigger action plan, and then more focus on the individual students. And with that, I yield my time to questions.
The chairwoman yields her time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We will now hear a report from the Student Life Committee. Chairman Spurgeon, you are recognized.
Hi, so we met this week at our normal time and we voted on bills 2021-23, found them all favorable, and we also discussed furthermore into some of our longer-term projects and planning, including outdoor learning spaces, more research, and hopefully an introduced plan to benefit Greek life, and a incentive-based system to encourage students to attend org events on campus and other non-athletic events on campus. And we will be meeting one more time to discuss summer and what will happen then. I yield the questions.
The chairman yields his time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We will now hear a report from the Sustainability Committee. Chairwoman Gopel, you are recognized.
Hi guys, happy Wednesday. We had our last meeting on Monday, which we kind of were wrapping up this semester. We talked about once we come back from the fall, everyone in the committee kind of have like an organization that they're kind of responsible for, so they reach out to that organization and make sure that they have everything they need student government-wise, Senate-wise, legislation-wise, stuff like that, just to keep them and us in the loop. We'll also be starting our own initiatives once we come back from summer, and then again, I have a meeting with Larry Cook next week to hopefully get more ideas, and with that, I yield my time to questions.
The chairwoman yields her time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We will now hear a report from the Freshman Council. Are there any representatives from the Freshman Council present? Seeing none. We will now hear a report from the Constitutional Council. Are there any representatives from the Constitutional Council present? Seeing none. We will now hear a report from the Speaker of the Senate, Maura Hamilton. Chief of Staff Thornton, you are recognized.
Hey guys, welcome to your last Senate session of the school year. I'm super excited. You've all done so well. I've had a great time getting to know all of you. A few things. Pearson Dillon, our Secretary of IT and Infrastructure, is interested in meeting with students who are interested in AI related with how it affects college. So if you're interested in AI at all or just kind of want to give him some ideas, just reach out to me for his contact info. As Simone mentioned, join the Summer Advisory Committee if you want to continue to be working in Senate during the summer, kind of get ideas. I have a few names of people who I'm missing things for delegation sheets. So I'm just gonna name them and hopefully you can just message me after Senate with that information just so we're all caught up. I need Kaylee Earler's phone number, Owen Cullum's number and email, Marshall Pickford's number, and Lester's number. Thanks guys. I just wanted to let you all know the first Senate session is Wednesday, August 20th. So that's the first Wednesday of the school year after classes start. So I believe you start the 19th that Tuesday, and then you will be here with us that Wednesday. And then don't forget after Senate tonight, we don't have any other sessions of the school year. Committees don't need to meet. You're not required to meet. I know that Student Life is meeting one more time that summer. Some other our committees may be doing that, but it's not required. And yeah, so I'm super excited. I hope you all have an amazing summer, and I believe that's it, so I yield my time to questions.
The Chief of Staff yields her time to questions. Are there any questions for the Chief of Staff? Seeing none, thank you. We also have cookies on the table for later. We are now in line for a report from the Student Body Treasurer. Is there any representatives from the Treasurer's Office present? You're recognized.
Hi guys, my name is Shreya. I'm the Chief of Staff for the Treasurer, Ashley. She couldn't be here, so I'm giving the update. As of today, Matt Hines' team has processed and approved a total of 78 reimbursements. That's $123,192. And there are 77 more pending reimbursements that they're working on, which total to $142,617. If you guys have any questions about the new point system, funding system, please reach out to the treasurer's email. I yield my time to questions.
The Chief of Staff yields her time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We are now in line for a report from the Student Body Vice President. Vice President Jordan Richardson, you are recognized.
Hi guys. So today, me and Emma Strickland, my Chief of Staff, and I recorded our second episode of the Inside of 1801 with Kim McMahon. She's the director of Russell House, so that was really exciting. Today we also had our Surveys in Celsius event. It went very well. It was unfortunately supposed to be outside, but we got moved to inside because of the weather. But we gained over 300 surveys, so that was amazing. So thank you so much if you came out. This is not SG related, but I wanted to throw in that Flick on the Field is a very fun, newer USC tradition. It's put on by my friends at Gamecock Entertainment, and it's on April 28th at 8, and watching Captain America, so you guys should definitely come out. It's a great time. Other than that, happy last Senate session of the semester. I'll be here over the summer serving as a student life ambassador, so I'll be planning a bunch of VP stuff, initiatives and events and stuff. So you have any ideas or anything y'all want to see in VP branch, please let me know. Have a great summer. I'll see y'all back in August. I yield my time to questions.
The Student Body Vice President yields his time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We can watch the side talk. I feel like I say that every Senate session, but I can always hear you guys. So we are now in line for a report from the Student Body President. Are there any representative from the Student Body President's office present? You are recognized.
Happy last Senate session, y'all. Obviously, I'm not Courtney. My name is Jackson Hensley. I'm the Director of Legislative Affairs on Courtney's staff. So, nice to meet y'all formally. A big part of Courtney's goals for this term is to increase cross-branch collaboration throughout our organization. And that's a really big part of my role. So if y'all have any ideas for any collaborations you want to do with cabinet or staff or any other part of student government, please let me know. I would love to hook y'all up with that. Also, if you have any questions about any university policies or government policies as it pertains to student government, I'm also a resource for that, so utilize me. For Courtney's updates, staff and cabinet meetings were focused on planning for the summer and for the fall semester this week, so that we can hit the ground running in the fall. And be on the lookout for more updates from Courtney as we move into the summer. There'll be lots to share. And I yield my time to questions.
The Director yields his time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We are now in line for special orders of the Senate. Are there any letters, petitions, appointments, applications, or other the clerk will now read?
A communication from the Office of the Student Body President regarding the nomination of Gracie Campbell and Tyler Frintner to the position of Associate Justice of the Constitutional Council.
The nominees are referred to the Judiciary Committee. Continuing on with the special orders of the Senate, are there any letters, petitions, appointments, applications, or other the clerk will now read?
A communication from the Office of the Speaker of the Student Senate regarding committee assignments. Daniel Violet, Health and Safety, Liberties and Representations, and Student Life. Marshall Pickford, Academics, Liberties and Representations, and Student Life.
The question is of committee assignment approval and block. All those in favor say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The committee assignments are approved. Continuing on with the special orders of the Senate, are there any letters, petitions, appointments, applications, or other the clerk will now read? Hearing no more special orders of the Senate, we are now in the motion period. Are there any motions on the floor at this time? Chairman Matthews. Okay, and does the sponsor find this amendment friendly or unfriendly? All right, the motion is to divide SBL 11729 into two pieces labeled Part A and Part B. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The legislation is divided. Are there any other motions on the floor at this time? Senator Lapsley. There's been a motion to add Senator Lapsley to the Finance Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Senator Wisenet. There's been a motion to add Senator Wisenet to the Summer Advisory Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Senator Lewis. There's been a motion to add Senator Lewis to the Summer Advisory Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Senator Walker. There's been a motion to add Senator Walker to the Summer Advisory Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Speaker Pro Tempore Miles. For which position are you speaking of? Is there a motion for a brief recess? Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Simone, can you come here really fast? Senate will now come to order. To that motion, it's going to be heard but not recognized because that's a staff member in the vice president's staff, so that doesn't require confirmation by Senate. The vice president can just appoint that person. Any other motions on the floor? Okay, sorry. Senator Freer. There's been a motion to add Senator Freer to the Summer Advisory Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Senator Colum. There's been a motion to add Senator Colum to the Summer Advisory Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Chairwoman Hopkins. There's been a motion to add Chairwoman Hopkins to the Summer Advisory Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Vice Chairman Dorsey. There's been a motion to add Vice Chairman Dorsey to the Summer Advisory Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Senator Hunter. There's been a motion to add Senator Hunter to the Summer Advisory Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Chairwoman Cumby. There's been a motion to add Chairwoman Cumby to the Summer Advisory Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Senator Gay. There's been a motion to add Senator Gay to the Summer Advisory Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Chairwoman Anderson. There's been a motion to add Chairwoman Anderson to the Summer Advisory Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Chairwoman Anderson. The question is of the confirmation of the nominees to their respective positions en bloc. All those in favor say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it, the nominees are confirmed. Chairperson Koviak.
Motion to confirm Bradley Gittens for Secretary of Transit Student Affairs.
There's been a motion to confirm Bradley Gittens to the position of Secretary of Transfer Student Affairs. All right. All those in favor say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it, the nominee is confirmed. Chairperson Koviak. There's been a motion to add Chairperson Koviak to the Summer Advisory Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Senator Gopal. There's been a motion to add Senator Gopal to the Summer Advisory Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Senator Iftikhar. There's been a motion to add Senator Iftikhar to the Summer Advisory Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Senator George. There's been a motion to add Senator George to the Summer Advisory Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Senator George. There's been a motion to add Senator George as a co-sponsor to SBL 11731. Does the sponsor find this amendment friendly or unfriendly? All right. Seeing as the sponsor has found the amendment friendly, Seeing no objections, this amendment is now adopted. Chairwoman Diapolito. The question is of the confirmation of Elijah Butcher to the position of Chief Justice of the Constitutional Council. All those in favor say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The nominee is now confirmed. Chairman Matthews. There's been a motion to confirm Jackson Pitts to the position of Comptroller. All those in favor say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The nominee is confirmed. Chairman Matthews. There's been a motion to add Chairman Matthews to the Summer Advisory Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Senator Erler. There's been a motion to add Senator Erler to the Summer Advisory Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Senator Santiago. There's been a motion to add Senator Santiago Cedillo to the Summer Advisory Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Chairman Spurgeon. There's been a motion to add Chairman Spurgeon to the Summer Advisory Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Chairman Matthews. Are there any other nominees waiting to be confirmed? All right. There's been a motion to suspend the rules to allow the nominees to take their oaths of office. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The rules are now suspended. And then y'all can come on down.
Do solemnly pledge to faithfully execute the office of Philanthropy Council Co-Director, to abide by the student government constitution and codes, to uphold the Carolinian Creed, and to represent my constituents to the best of my ability.
I'm just going to add an additional 2 minutes as I reflect the amendments that were just made during that motion period. So if anybody urgently needs to use the restroom or get a drink of water, I would go now. Are there any other motions on the floor at this time? Can you remind me of your last name? Okay. There's been a motion to add Senator Violette to the Summer Advisory Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Senator Walker. Could you repeat that? I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry. There's been a motion to add Senator Walker as a co-sponsor to SBL 11727. Do the sponsors find this amendment friendly or unfriendly? All right. Seeing as the sponsors have found this friendly and seeing no objections, this amendment is now adopted. Are there any other motions? Senator Sams. There's been a motion to add Senator Sams to the Summer Advisory Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Senator Sanders. There's been a motion to add Senator Sanders to the Summer Advisory Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Are there any other motions on the floor at this time? Seeing no more motions, is there a motion to dispense of this motion period? Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. We are now on the call of the introduction of new legislation. The clerk will now read.
SBL 11727, sponsored by Senators Whatley, Cumby, Walker, a recommendation to establish a women's bathroom on the second floor of Jones Physical Science Center.
The sponsors are recognized to speak on this legislation.
Okay, so last Friday, Senator Whatley and I surveyed Jones Physical Science Center, and there's currently no women's restroom or labeled women's restroom on the second floor, which puts any student who needs to use such a bathroom at a disadvantage because you're out of the classroom for an extended period of time. So over the past 3 years, they've been doing like some sort of construction on it, but there's been no true sort of progress in that construction. So hopefully with this recommendation, we'll be able to urge, sort of like catalyze that whole thing. And then also with the summer coming up, we want to go ahead and pass this so that we can start working on that sooner versus later. I yield to, do you have anything to add? No. Okay. Oh, perfect. I yield to questions. We yield to questions.
The sponsors yield their time to questions. Are there any questions for the sponsors? Chairwoman Hopkins. There's been a motion to pass SBL 11727 by unanimous consent. Was that an objection? Oh. No seconds in a unanimous consent. We just remember sit awkwardly. All right. Seeing no objections, this legislation is now adopted. All right. Continuing on with the call of new legislation, the clerk will now read.
SBL 11728, sponsored by the Liberties and Representations Committee, a recommendation to increase the accommodations for blind students.
The sponsors are recognized to speak on this legislation.
All right, I compiled a group. Does anyone else who helped write it want to talk? Okay, I was looking at you, Owen. Yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory. This was the first piece that the whole Liberties and Representations Committee came together at once to write, but I'll go ahead and let everyone else explain what it is. Whoever wants to start. Sorry, I just stepped aside for you, Gracie.
So we want to expand the amount of Braille on campus. Currently, there's only 2% of books for Braille. So we want to make sure that students are able to access Braille easier.
Anyone else have something to add? Simone, you wrote a big portion of it.
This is also to increase the resources we have for visually impaired students, as well as make sure they are on campus so they don't have to go off campus to certain buildings where they're currently housed, as well as just backing up current research that the school already has saying that there's a need for the officers in the Student Disability Center to know more and be up to date in order to service all of our students to the best of their ability.
All right, well, We yield to questions. That's our legislation.
The sponsors yield their time to questions. Are there any questions for the sponsors? Senator Wisnett. There's been a motion to pass SBL 11728 by unanimous consent. Seeing no objections, this legislation is now adopted. Congratulations. Okay. Continuing on with the call of new legislation, the clerk will now read.
SBL 11729A, sponsored by the Finance Committee, a recommendation to permit the Finance Committee to allocate funds.
Chairman Matthews, you are recognized to speak on this legislation.
Thank you, Maura. All right, so this is part one. This one is for, let's see, I don't even have it pulled up. So sorry. Okay, it's $3,393.48 going to the organizations on the bill. I yield to questions.
The chairman yields his time to questions. Are there any questions? Chairwoman Hopkins. There's been a motion to pass SBL 11729A by unanimous consent. Seeing no objections, this legislation is now adopted. Continuing on with the call of new legislation, the clerk will now read.
SBL 11729B, sponsored by the Finance Committee, a recommendation to permit the Finance Committee to allocate funds.
Chairman Matthews, you are once again recognized to speak on this legislation.
Hey, guys. All right. So this is part two. It's $5,569.05 going to Jesse Pinkman Conglomerate. I understand some senators had issues with the way that the committee voted in this one, and wants to debate a few of the items that are being funded in this allocation. So I guess we'll open up to some sort of debate period, and they'd come up and talk about it.
If senators are wishing to debate, they can motion to open a period of debate on the bill. Senator Lapsley. There's been a motion to open a period of debate on SBL 11729B. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The Senate is now moving into a period of debate on SBL 11729B. Chairman Matthews, do you have anything else to add?
Well, I guess I'll just take y'all through this request. It was initially requested for donuts, for all sorts of other like advertising materials like car magnets, flyers, business cards, key rings, life-size cutouts of Jesse Pinkman, boxes that will be used to house boxes, tablecloths, jean jackets, patches, and there's a note in here. So there are some items in here that we decided were not eligible to be funded, like some of the business cards, for example. It's a little complicated. The idea is that you're going to hand out these business cards, but it was all of them at this event, but there was 500 of the business cards, and we thought that was a little unreasonable. No matter how charismatic I know you are, Ash, 500 is a lot to go through in a few hours. So we cut that down to about 120, which is a much more reasonable amount to hand out. The flyers we cut just because we could. We couldn't fund this entire request anyways because this was the last request that we were reviewing for the year, and we were already, and if this entire request were approved, it would go, the budget would go into the negative, so we had to cut some things in the first place. So that's where flyers were gone. What else was gotten rid of? Some of the funding for the donuts was gotten rid of, and then as were the card magnets and the key rings. So now we are, as it stands right now, we're funding the business cards, we're funding a handful of life-size cutouts of Jesse Pinkman. We're funding, I don't know how many jean jackets this is, but about $3,000 worth of jackets and another $1,200 of patches to go onto the jackets. And then some donuts. So I understand that the senators had issues with, I believe it was the jackets and the cutouts. So I'll let them come up here and talk about those. We, as a committee, have been operating under the assumption that if, because we have had so much money that, since I've been in this committee, we've had so much money. So we haven't really, if we see an item in there that we might disagree with, we haven't really touched that because, for one, we have not had a system to partially fund things, and two, we've had so much money that it was we may as well approve it because we have $340,000 to get rid of. There is a discretion that we have to fund items that we don't believe would contribute much to the student body. We have not exercised that right thus far, but we could do it here if this is the way that the Senate votes. Maybe, you know, if we don't believe that the jackets are necessary or the cutouts are necessary, then we have that discretion to say this is not the best use of this money. But also keep in mind, we have, you know, as of last Wednesday, 0 requests could be made. So this is the final request of the year, and if every cent of this were approved, we would be at exactly $0 left in our budget. Which, by the way, Finance Committee, great job. We had $40,000 to approve, and as a brand new committee, that's pretty amazing that we went through all of that, that we could process all of that in just a handful of meetings. So thank you all. You guys have been great. So yeah, I guess I'll let them come up and talk. I yield. 2 questions.
2 questions? Okay.
Yeah.
The chairman yields his time to questions. Are there any questions for the chairman? Senator Lapsley?
Okay, so I 100% agree with what you said, and it's no disrespect to my fellow senator. However, currently, the reason why I wanted this to come to debate is because
Senator Lapsley, really quickly, this would be a question period for things that Chairman Matthews
Okay.
addressed. Anything else, you could get up and debate it during the debate period.
Okay. I wanted to call the question the jean jackets, but we agree on that. On the price of the jean jackets, I don't believe in this invoice. We should just fund the jean jackets. I don't believe we should fund that. So
Okay.
my question is what is a solution you see with the jean jackets?
Well, it was, what is the exact? So I believe in the past we have considered like shirts, jackets, so on and so forth as an advertising expense. That's how we have allowed organizations to be approved for funding for stuff like shirts and jackets in the past, because so long as they hand out all of these items at their event. If they don't hand them out and they're retained by the club, that's therefore considered inventoriable, and therefore must be like have some storage plan. There's a whole song and dance to that. And so if they don't have a storage plan, and in committee we just deny them. But these jackets, it was explicitly told to us that they would all be given out to people on Green Street who wanted them.
Sorry, Chairman Matthews, do you have an interruptible motion? Yeah. So a period would be any senator can get up to speak on this matter. So right now, Chairman Matthews is recognized. You would be asking questions related to what Chairman Matthews has just said. Anything outside of that, anybody can get up and debate. So continue, Chairman Matthews.
Yeah, and so code-wise, there is nothing wrong that I can see about these jackets. We discussed that, we approved it as a committee. So in terms of like, you know, beyond the stuff that we have at our discretion, saying like we could by all means vote here now to say that the jackets are not the best use of this money, and therefore should not be funded by us. I would also point out that if that is the case, then that's $3,233.56 that we would have remaining in our budget, and would therefore go back to the university for them to use as they wish. That's what would happen with that. But, you know, code-wise, there's nothing wrong with the jackets. I don't know how, you know, I don't really, if you want to cut it down to a certain amount, I guess you could introduce an amendment to do that. But, you know, the reason why we haven't even thought of that is because, you know, you're doing this for the jean jackets, but what if you were doing this for another kind of item for a political organization that you disagreed with? Then you could just introduce an amendment and do that. You know, you could argue that maybe that's not the best use of the funds, but that introduces some sort of bias, which is what this committee has tried to avoid, and it's what the last committee tried to avoid, and that's why so long as it's not an item in the codes that it explicitly breaks, we have approved it and moved it on to the Senate, no problem.
Chairwoman Hopkins, sorry, I think she has an interruptible motion.
anyways, I
Yeah,
hope
you-
that answers.
I got
some
another
important- Yeah.
To your knowledge, is this club over the $10,000 limit?
Yeah, but the request was approved by over a 2/3 majority, so in the codes, they're fine. But yeah, the answer to that is yes, they are well above that $10,000 threshold. I don't know that exact number, though.
Hey,
Are there any other questions for Chairman Matthews? Question or a motion? Yes. So $16,000 was the number that was just said, in case you can't hear. Okay. Any other questions for the chairman? Okay. Seeing no more questions, we are now continuing with the period of debate. Do any senators wish to speak on this matter? Chairman Lapsley, or Senator Lapsley. Also, just some Robert's Rules on Debate stuff. Not that anybody's doing anything wrong. You can go up to the well now. Yeah, so if you have like a brand new piece of information, an argument, something like that to state, you just wait and then you get up and you take the well. If you have a question relating to something that a senator specifically said while they were up there, you approach the microphone. There are things called interruptible motions. That's like point of inquiry. You've got a really pertinent question about the proceeding, like the rule of Senate, or point of information, something's blatantly wrong, or point of order if you feel like there's like a fire somewhere or something like that. But hopefully we won't use that one. So we're all on the same page about this. Okay. Senator Lapsley.
Okay, so as you heard the Senator, Ash Jacobson stated that his club alone has allocated $16,000. So the main reason why I wanted us to debate this, at least discuss this, is because currently there's 2 clubs that I have knowledge of, and I do not mean to misquote the title of the clubs, but to my knowledge, the Korean Club and the Moksha Club, both of these clubs have had to close down simply because of, out of fear of gaining financial backing. The Moksha Club, over a period of time, has came to the Finance Committee in the past to pay for the Strom area for their dance practices. They use that money in the Strom facilities, pay for those facilities for their dance practices, and then they came to us about a conference. They went on that conference and they actually won the competition. What I'm saying is these 2 clubs, smaller clubs, have both closed out of fear that they will not have funding in the future, and we have a prime example right here that one club in shortest span amount of time has allocated $16,000. So that's why I do have a problem with the jean jackets being the way that they are. That's why I do have a problem with patches going on those jackets, and this is getting passed out for free. I also do, once it's broken down, each one of those jackets are about $40 a piece. You get what I'm saying? Both clubs, let's just use the Moksha Club as an example, that would cover their dance practices at least for a year. So we're spending all of that on jackets that are getting passed out for free. And I yield.
All right, the senator yields his time to questions. Are you yielding to the well, Senator Lapsley?
Oh, no, you can come talk.
Okay. Well, Senator Lapsley, are you yielding your time to questions from the senator? Okay.
Okay. No, I'm yielding to the well.
Okay. Right. The senator yields his time to the well, which means that he will not be taking questions. But we are continuing with the period of debate. Senator Jacobson, you're recognized.
Hi, guys. Obviously, this is a weird situation because I'm both a senator who is on Finance Committee and also happen to be part of the club that was requesting this money, which gives me a convenient position to specifically defend some of the stuff that Senator Lapsley has been talking about. I would like to show my sympathy for those clubs that you listed, and I'm very sad that they have closed. My question was a minute ago, this is unrelated, but I was going to ask, had they requested funding for that location? Because I'm aware that the Finance Committee has made exceptions for clubs that do sports, rather than sports clubs, to host their regular practices and have them funded, even though that breaks some codes. about recurring events. I know that there are lots of options, and the codes are open to everyone. Anyone can read the codes, anyone can request, as long as they go to the Treasurer's Workshop. It's a very open system, and I think since, in essence, all of us senators here represent the student bodies and their interest, since we are elected by them, that includes members of the Finance Committee. So since the Jesse Pinkman conglomerate received more than a 2/3 vote on their over $10,000 cap request, it seems to me like that would imply that the student body is in favor of this funding. I believe a lot of this could have been said at Finance Committee. I'd like to think it was. I wasn't allowed to be there because I was part of the request, so I am not allowed to be in the room during the period of debate on that funding. So, yeah, I think that is what I have to say. I yield to questions.
The senator yields his time to questions. Are there any questions for the senator?
I'd also like to say that there are a lot of clubs that are struggling with funding, and it's because the things that they do don't exactly match what the Finance Committee is able to fund, hence the creation of SOFAB, and hopefully that solves a lot of these problems going forward. But I am not the reason, or my request is not the reason why that didn't exist until now. I'm very happy to hear about it because that gives the money to a lot of people who have really wonderful clubs that I'm personally part of, that have been unable to request money because of the restrictions and the guidelines on what can be funded.
Chairperson Koviak, do you have a?
This might not be correct, but I thought it was 5. Is that correct? It's 5. Yeah.
It's a smaller number. I mean, like, if you really, I could get out my computer and like pull up the spreadsheet, but
It's around 5.
less than
Less than
10, I
6.
could guarantee that.
But that is about, that's about 10% of undergraduate clubs that requested funding, though, because it's like 56, I do believe, that requested funding at all. And so, a 10th of them.
No, that's okay. Are there any questions for the senator? Question? Okay. Also, I'd remind everybody, we talked about this with the debate, like, we gotta stay in the scope of the piece of legislation. So like, I think we passed out the thing with like the room reservation, not like Strom and repeated rentals, but that, there's no repeated reservations in this request, so.
Yes, so on your budget request, can you defend putting a box in a box? So why are we paying money for a box that we're gonna then put another box inside? How is that a benefit to the student body?
So, the event in its whole is a fentanyl awareness event where we are co-hosting this with SAPE. They are going to be there at the event handing out Narcan and fentanyl test strips, which we had originally requested. This event has gone through a couple different requests with errors here and there and issues with risk and whatnot, but we finally gotten to a point where everyone seems on board with it. And we've spoken to them, and they'll be there handing out Narcan and otherwise, and giving educational talks on fentanyl awareness and safety and what to do in the case of an overdose. And everything in my request, since the Narcan and fentanyl test strips were removed from that request, since they would be provided for free, everything in my request is purely incentive to attend the event. And the more people we get in the door, the more people who can hear this information and receive the Narcan. If you don't know where to get Narcan, there are free places on campus where you can go get that. And everything that we're going to be giving out is incentives for people to attend the event and learn this information.
Yeah.
You didn't answer the question. Why are we buying boxes to put boxes in?
Because the members of my organization like Jesse Pinkman, and they will have Jesse Pinkman on the box. So that's an incentive for people. Paper.
That would be a question for the senator to approach the well. Point of information is when you have like something that's incorrect to stay.
The boxes are made out of paper. They were be folded into paper boxes, and they have a picture of Jesse Pinkman's
Just
face
watch
on them.
with asked and answered, if you've asked a
Go ahead.
question twice already. But
Okay, I think incentive-based. I think if people find it attractive to have a box with Jesse Pinkman's face on it, then that's a reason to get people in the door to learn the valuable information. We've had 173 unique attendees of our events, so it seems our branding or otherwise is working well enough to get people in the door, and so we've been continuing along that path.
follow-up question? Any other questions for the senator?
Okay, maybe you can answer this for me. So, for the Jesse Pinkman life-size standees from Breaking Bad, that's getting distributed, right, to the first 20?
It was the first 20, but since there were constraints with how much we could get funded, it's going to be only the first 5.
So the first 5
Mhm.
that come in, they get that. And then the first 150 get key rings?
There will be no key rings. Those were marked from the funding. Were reduced because we had no money left.
Okay, thank you. And so the first 100 get the jean jackets?
There will only be 82.
So the first 82
but yes,
get jean
that
jackets?
would be how we would distribute that.
Okay, so they get jean jackets, they get the 5 people get the life size, and then the embroidery patches.
Mhm.
Is that going to the first 100 people?
That was what it says in the request.
Okay,
yes.
so, okay, cool. So each jean jacket is getting a patch?
Not anymore. That was the original intent, but since we had not enough money, we had to reduce that to 82 jean jackets. We decided that the remaining 18 ones would just go to people, and they could put it on whatever they'd like.
So
And-
technically,
Sorry, Senator Lapsley, do you have an interruptible motion? Okay, sure. All right, there's been a motion to limit the period of debate for 5 more minutes, so 6:35. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it, the period of debate is now limited for an extension period of 5 minutes.
so my only question is basically, the first 20 are incentivized. So really, the first 120 are incentivized, right?
120? I'm not sure where you're getting that number.
Well, the first 20 get certain items, and then 100 people that's first get the jackets.
I don't believe it's any restriction to only one item per person.
Okay, so, so y'all are gonna like distribute it,
Multiple items.
multiple
the
items
first
to one
people.
person, or just multiple items?
If you get there first, you can have one of each of the things that says you're the first person here, you can have this.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
So you don't need like 500 business cards.
Well, we already did that in Finance Committee, that was already. Also, point of information, the money that was allocated to me for business cards is not enough money to buy any business cards, because the pricing scales with how many you're buying, so $15 will not get me any business cards.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
if
thank
I
you.
was aware of that during Finance Committee, which I was not because I was not present for the debate period, I would have given a price for
Yeah.
what was there, but
Yeah.
I was not present for that, so
All right.
just so
Yeah.
you know.
All right. Any other questions for the senator? Seeing none. Okay.
I yield to the well.
Okay, we have 3 minutes left on the period of debate. Does any other senator wish to speak? Are there no senators wishing to speak on this topic matter? Yeah, I was going to say so to set the, reel us back in, if you will. This piece of legislation is on the first reading calendar, so there's got to be like a motion to pass or table or something. Senator Matthews? Can't do that, not on the first reading. Senator Jacobson? That's, y'all, you got it. Senator Lapsley? We cannot motion to pass by a roll call or a voice vote. Senator Silkert? Chairwoman Diapolito? There's been a motion to pass SBL 11729B by unanimous consent. Objection. There's been an objection. Are any motions on the floor? Senator Colum. There's been a motion to table SBL 11729B indefinitely. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The bill is tabled indefinitely. Chairman Matthews. There's been a motion to place SBL 11729B to the second reading contested calendar. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The legislation is now placed on the second reading contested calendar. Okay. Let me get my stuff up. 1 second, please. Look, we got there. We were thinking critically. It's fine. Continuing on with the call of new legislation, the clerk will now read.
SBL 11730, sponsored by Senator Lewis, a resolution to celebrate the University of South Carolina women's golf team's 2025 SEC championship.
Senator Lewis, you are recognized to speak on this legislation. Women's golf team.
Yeah, what a night. This is basically recognizing our women's golf team. They won the SEC championship here 2025. Recognize the golf coach and also the wonderful golf team. We got a wonderful training golf facility down here. I think everyone should check it out. With that, I'll yield to questions.
The senator yields his time to questions. Senator Fry. There's been a motion to pass SBL 11730 by unanimous consent. Seeing no objections, this legislation is now adopted. Continuing on with the call of new legislation, the clerk will now read.
SBL 11731, sponsored by Senators Coolum and George, a resolution to establish an ad hoc committee to research and propose alternatives for the student government calendar term.
The sponsors are recognized to speak on this legislation.
Hello? Okay. Hey, everyone. So this is, for those of y'all who aren't aware, an ad hoc committee in Student Senate is basically a sort of a temporary committee that's formed for just a short period of time where we tackle one specific issue. And this issue would be the student government calendar term. Currently, as y'all know, it's from March to March, which isn't that practical. I think we're the only SEC institution to have a March to March calendar. More practical terms could be August to August, May to May, stuff like that. So this is just the committee to investigate alternatives for this calendar term.
And we want to have a separate committee for this because we feel like this is going to be a big initiative that takes a lot of time and effort into this. I mean, typically it would go to Judiciary Committee, but we think an ad hoc committee would be better served to address this issue. I think that if we put this on Judiciary Committee, it could put a lot of...
Table SBL 11731 indefinitely. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. All opposed?
Nay.
The nays have it. The motion to table indefinitely has failed. Senator Loco. There's been a motion to appoint Senator Diapolito as Senator Loco's proxy. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Senator Loco. Granted. All right. Are there any other questions for the senators? Okay. Did someone? Oh. Yes, so when stuff is on the second reading calendar, there's two places it could go: uncontested, contested. Uncontested, voice vote. Contested, roll call vote. You can motion to change that to a voice vote, which just would be aye or nay. Yes. Any questions for the senators? Senator Lewis.
We have. She agrees.
Senator Lewis, if you have questions, I would ask that you approach the microphone just so everyone can hear.
Has this issue ever been raised to the Senate body before?
Not that I can say, but it's been raised with the executive officers and other people in student government.
Okay, we're not privy to that Has it ever been raised to the Senate body before, and why are we now jumping to an ad hoc committee?
Multiple senators have expressed their desire to change the terms, so it has been addressed in Senate.
The purpose of an ad hoc committee is when senators decide that there's a special topic that they want to debate multiple times over extended period of weeks.
Yeah, I understand that though, but I'm done with questions. I'll look.
Are there any other questions for the senators? Chairwoman Diapolito. So to restate what the chairwoman just said, an ad hoc committee just means that a discussion is happening. It doesn't mean that any definitive change is going to happen. Are there any other questions for the senators? All right. Seeing no more questions for the senators, this legislation is now referred to all committees. Continuing on with the call of new legislation, the clerk will now read.
SBL 11732, sponsored by Senator Lewis, a resolution to honor the USC Relay for Life 2025 for raising $162,500.
Senator Lewis, you are once again recognized to speak on this legislation.
Yeah, so this is basically to recognize USC Relay for Life for the money they raise, to recognize the directors also for this event and the wonderful events they got coming up in the fall semester. I believe that we're going to be partnering with them moving forward, so I'm very excited about that, and I'll yield to questions.
The senator yields his time to questions. Are there any questions? Senator Walker. There's been a motion to pass SBL 11732 by unanimous consent. Seeing no objections, this legislation is now adopted. Continuing on with the call of new legislation, the clerk will now read.
SBL 11733, sponsored by Senator Lewis, a resolution to recognize USC Mind Mental Illness Needs Discussion.
Senator Lewis, you are once again recognized to speak on this legislation.
Yeah, so this is basically, everyone has seen it on their Instagram stories, all over the news and everything about the new bringing back the Ice Bucket Challenge. So this is to recognize USC Mind. And I can recognize the founder, Wade Jefferson. So I talked to him, he's very excited. He did a news interview. I think Craig Milne was supposed to be coming down to really look at this and really talk about USC Mind. But what they've done is some great things, bringing awareness to the mental illness topic. It's a big thing. So with that, I'll yield to questions.
The senator yields his time to questions. Are there any questions? Senator Wisnett? There's been a motion to pass SBL 11733 by unanimous consent. Seeing no objections, this legislation is now adopted. Continuing on with the call of new legislation, the clerk will now read. Hearing none, that completes the call of new legislation. We are now on the call of the uncontested calendar. The clerk will now read.
SBL 11720, sponsored by Senator Lewis, a recommendation to establish a student tailgating spot in Gamecock Park during football season.
Senator Lewis, you're once again recognized to speak on this legislation. And you do have the next piece as well, if you just want to stay up here.
So this is basically establishing a tailgate park. I can't give much, I don't have much updates about this, but if anybody wants to know anything, come talk to me privately. I can give you some updates about it. But with that, I'll yield to questions.
The senator yields his time to questions. Are there any questions? Senator Wisnett. There's been a motion to pass SBL 11720 by unanimous consent. Okay. Are there any other questions for the senator?
Just real quick, is this going to eat into the student government budget in any way? I'm just curious.
No, this has nothing to do with the student activity budget.
Any other questions for the senator? Seeing none, we will now move to a voice vote. Senator Wisnett? That motion has already failed. Yes. Senator, let me see, Von Cannon.
I would say at this point, come talk to me privately about that, as this is something that's actively working with the athletics at this point. So we are live right now, and so I can't put something out there that's not true.
Any other questions? Okay, we will now move to a voice vote on this legislation. All those in favor of passage say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes, was there another one? Okay. The ayes have it, this legislation is now adopted. Continue on with the call of new legislation, the clerk will now read.
SBL 11721, sponsored by Senator Lewis, a recommendation to establish a value menu for athletics concessions.
Senator Lewis, you're once again recognized.
Oh, yeah, so this is something new. I'm very excited about this, is that hopefully this is going to benefit all the students at our athletic events. So most recently, I would say this, most recently, Coastal Carolina is going to all free concession stands, excluding this. But here, you see we're taking the lead in the SEC, leading this for our student concession stands. So I think that by achieving this, it's going to be a great program. So when you go to concession stands, you're going to see those prices hopefully look a little different. Again, if you need specific details, I'll say come talk to me privately. I can talk to you about that. But with that, I'll yield to questions.
So sorry. The senator yields his time to questions. Are there any questions? Senator Sams.
Will this value menu have anything to do with the free tickets that are offered? Because we offer free tickets, I feel like the school budget would eat into the value menu.
Okay. We have hundreds of budgets here at the University of South Carolina. And I can't compare student tickets to this concession stands budget. I have not seen a budget for the concession stands. I have not looked at numbers for that. This is why what I'm saying, this has nothing to do with student tickets at all. So essentially it's not going to affect your student tickets.
But it's still run through Williams-Brice Stadium, still for the football team, for football games. And like you said, Coastal Carolina has a completely free concession stand. You have to pay for tickets at their.
1 second. Senator Silkert, do you have an interruptible notion? Like, yes and no. The best answer I can give to this is that athletics does its own thing. And I really am not educated enough to answer questions as to student athletic fees, where that gets allocated to, anything like that. All I know is that the stadiums do run as individual businesses. Sorry to interrupt.
Can you repeat your question?
I'm just saying that I don't understand how it couldn't have an effect on tickets, because like you referenced Coastal Carolina, they have a completely free concession stand, yet those students have to pay for tickets. So I don't really understand how you can have one without the other.
Very easily. One is through a food company, another is through the school. So every year on your tuition, you pay a sports fee that helps cover your tickets. So if you want to look at raising that fee to help cover free tickets, we can talk about that. But this has nothing to do with this food program.
Interruptible motion? Yeah. Granted. Chairwoman Anderson.
Just out of curiosity, have you had the opportunity to speak to anyone either in like our athletics department or someone on the administration about how feasible this would be?
Yes, I have, and that's why we are not putting too much public information out there at this time, if that makes sense. Because if we start throwing promises and our information out there, then it could hurt the process going forward.
Okay, thank you.
Chairman Matthews.
I just looked at an ESPN article. It was ticket prices rose 17% from last year to this year. So a $200 ticket then cost $230. There are a few factors involved in that, but part of that was the concessions being free. So is this something that you anticipate happening with our tickets if this were to be implemented?
Are you talking about student tickets or general tickets?
General tickets, which, student tickets, that would be a part of that as well, our tuition would rise.
To clarify, I believe the chairman's talking about Coastal Carolina tickets.
I am speaking about Coastal Carolina.
To be clear, I don't think that's going to affect our tickets because we're not actually focusing on other concession stands. We're really focused on the student concession stands. But they're also, I guess I can say this, that some of the, when you went to basketball games, you noticed some of these things were already happening at the basketball games. So essentially, this program is going to be expanded more in depth to the other venues.
Any other questions for the senator? All right. Seeing no more questions, we will now move to a voice vote on this legislation. All those in favor of passage say aye. Aye. All opposed? Well, we're gonna have to move to a voice vote on that because I can't call. The clerk will call the roll. Please say aye in favor of passage of this legislation and nay in favor of not passing this legislation. Okay, you ready? Okay.
Aloco. Anderson. Ashmore. Baldinger. Brazier. Costello. Coolum. Koviak. Creedon. Cumby. Doppolito. Davis. Dorsey. Dorzenowski. Erler. Can you repeat that? Freer. Fry. Govan. Gay. George. Gopel. Hopkins. Hunter. Iftikhar. Jacobson. Cassetti. Keenan. Kern. Kirby. Lopsley. Lewis. Matthews. Miles. Pigford. Sams. Sanders. Santiago Cedillo. Schmidt. Spurgeon. Silkert. Tapia. Talaka.
Which person?
Tapia.
Was that an aye or an A? Sorry? Nay? Would you be able to come and join us down here? Thank you. Okay, and then Talaka was next one? Was that an aye or a nay for Talaka? Nay, 2 nays.
Violet. Von Cannon. Walker. Wisenant. Watley.
Are all senators voting and present, have they answered the call at this time? Yes, okay. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. By a vote of 12 ayes and 32 nays, this legislation has failed. Continuing on with the call of the uncontested legislation, the clerk will now read.
SBL 11722, sponsored by Chairwoman Anderson and Senator Talaka, a recommendation to extend Thomas Cooper library hours on Fridays and Saturdays.
The sponsors are recognized to speak on this legislation. Speaker Pro Tempore Miles. Granted. Senator Hunter. Granted.
Okay, hopefully this is a little less controversial. Essentially, this bill is just to extend the library hours on Friday and Saturday. Students have very different schedules. While some students like to take their Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off, other students work during the week or choose to have their social activities during the week and may need that time to study. We also have exam periods currently built in that go past 7 p.m. on Fridays. So for students who happen to live in dorms where they may not have a study room and that, having access to the library a little bit later on these days is super, super important. And then as I mentioned this concern last week, but nowhere in the legislation does it specify an exact time. So that would be left up to the jurisdiction of the library of what their resources would allow with that. And I don't, okay, perfect.
Senators yield their time to questions. Are there any questions? Senator George. There's been a motion to pass SBL 11722 by unanimous consent. Seeing no objections, this legislation is now adopted. Continuing on with the call of new legislation, the clerk will now read.
SBL 11723, sponsored by Senator Sanders, a recommendation to improve and expand upon outdoor seating options on Russell House Lawn in Davis Field.
Senator Sanders, you are recognized to speak on this legislation. Senator Jacobson, so sorry. Granted.
Yeah, so I spoke on this last week a little bit. It's basically just to make the seats on Russell House Lawn more comfortable because those metal seats, I don't know about y'all, but I cannot sit on those for like more than 30 minutes at a time. I did receive some news from Jerome Diapolito that this is actually going to happen, I think alongside T-Coop renovations. So they are gonna kind of switch out those seatings. And with that, I have my time to questions.
The senator yields her time to questions. Are there any questions? Senator Fry. Okay. There's been a motion to pass SBL 11723 by unanimous consent. Seeing no objections, this legislation is now adopted. Continue on with the call of new legislation. The clerk will now read.
SBL 11724, sponsored by Senator Sanders, a recommendation to increase availability of same-day appointments at the Center of Student Health and Wellbeing.
Senator is recognized to speak on this legislation.
Yeah, so I actually did hear back from the contact, and they said that because only 40 appointments are available, that it is difficult to make same-day appointments, but they did respond back to me, and they said to expedite care to students during like kind of flu season, they did add direct flu testing in their lab, which you can do the same day, and then they will message the students who tested positive, order their medication when appropriate, and then provide a validation of visit letter so that they can be excused. Additionally, they said that they are working to improve the My Health Space portal to make booking an appointment easier for students. So with that, I yield to questions.
The senator yields her time to questions. Are there any questions? Okay, Senator Keenan. There's been a motion to pass SBL 11724 by unanimous consent. Seeing no objections, this legislation is now adopted. Quick point of information, and it's nothing bad, but I do just want to clarify that unanimous consent is typically reserved for pieces on the first reading calendar when you want to expedite the legislative process, or resolutions when it's kind of like an honorary thing. When pieces are on the second reading calendar, they are already going to be voted on by you guys, no matter what. So just keep that in mind, that like y'all are already going to be voting on it in 30 seconds. All right, continue on with the call of the uncontested legislation. The clerk will now read. Hearing none, that completes the call of the uncontested legislation. We are now on the call of the contested legislation. The clerk will now read.
SBL 11729B, sponsored by the Finance Committee, a recommendation to permit the Finance Committee to allocate funds.
Chairman Matthews, you are recognized to speak on this legislation again.
We're so back. Okay. So I guess I don't really have anything more to add on this one. I guess if we're gonna do anything with this, it should be amended. If y'all want to try to introduce some sort of amendment to get rid of it, some of the funding, we can go through that process. But as it stands right now, this whole request, it's about $6,000, is either going to be approved or denied. No in between, without an amendment, that is. I yield to questions.
All right. Senator Wisenet, you'd like to move to a roll call vote? And, okay, so just to preface, that will be a motion that will have to be voted on by Senate just because there is a period of debate and questions, and we're going to expedite past all of that. Okay. There's been a motion to move to a roll call vote immediately. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? That's have it. We are now moving to a roll call vote on SBL 11729B. The clerk will call the roll. Please, 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 please. Like, I know it kind of feels like you're screaming. Please enunciate your words so we can hear you. And an aye will be in passage of the legislation, and a nay will be in the failure of the legislation.
Aloco. Anderson. Ashmore. Baldinger. Brazier. Costello. Coulomb. Koviak. Creedon. Cumby. Zappolito. Davis. Dorsey. Dorsnowski. Erler. Freer. Fry. Govan. Yay. George. Gopel. Hopkins. Hunter. Iftikhar. Jacobson. Cassetti. Keenan. Kern. Kirby. Lapsley. Lewis. Matthews. Miles. Pickford. Sams. Sanders. Santiago Cedillo. Schmidt. Spurgeon. Silkert. Tapia. Talaka. Violet. Von Cannon. Walker. Wizenant. Watley.
Are all senators voting and present have answered the call? Senator Jacobson. Yeah, remove one aye vote and please change that to an abstention. Sorry. By a vote of 35 ayes, 9 nays, and 1 abstention, this legislation has been adopted. Okay. Continue on with the call of contested legislation. The clerk will now read. Hearing none, that completes the call of contested legislation. We are now in line for a period of open discussion. Does any senator wish to bring a matter of attention to the body? Senator Wisnett.
I'd like to take this time to speak on an issue that directly impacts every student on this campus, and that is the proposed shift to a point-based funding model. This change was first introduced on the Senate floor by the SG Treasurer 2 sessions ago, and it fundamentally alters how student organizations will fund their events. Since then, many organizations have reached out voicing their concerns about this proposed change in policy. One student organization leader put it best where they wrote, "I am very alarmed and concerned with the current proposal for a shift in how funds are allocated from the student government based on a partial reimbursement system. Since this was put forward, I have been trying to understand who this system is supposed to help, and I cannot find a solid answer other than it helps the school retain more money that was already put in by students and for students' use. The original information from that announcement was directly citing how only a fraction of the 350 or so organizations on campus actually request money, and they gave a breakdown for how much money these orgs requested. To me, this seems to be therefore implying that this is trying to help these other orgs request money to fund their events. But why would anyone for an organization now start to request money when they have to pay out of pocket, whereas before they could have requested and been fully reimbursed? It's a good intention to try to help other orgs grow, but I believe this is going about it the wrong way. This current system will only hurt smaller organizations who want to host events or activities, and they will be less financially able to take the hit. So also, this move is something that will hurt minority-serving organizations directly. Looking at college statistics, first-generation students typically come from families with limited financial resources. I cannot support this new reimbursement system. I strongly encourage a pause in this proposal. So, their concerns echo those of many other student orgs that have reached out to both the treasurer and senators here tonight. It's clear that this proposed policy doesn't just affect budgets, it affects the ability for all organizations to thrive on our campus. With that in mind, I'd like to read a resolution that I authored that addresses these concerns directly. A resolution to defend student organizations against discriminatory funding models. Whereas the current funding process for recognized student organizations at this college operates on a fair first-come, first-served basis, allowing organizations to receive up to 100% reimbursement for eligible event expenses so long as the event complies with all university, state, and federal regulations. And whereas the Student Body Treasurer's Office has proposed a student organization engagement point system which links funding eligibility to a tier-based model built on attendance metrics and structural benchmarks that disproportionately favor larger, wealthier, and already established student organizations, and institutes a new system of partial funding only. And whereas this system relies heavily on organizations' ability to generate attendance and complete administrative tasks, ignoring the significant logistical and financial challenges faced by smaller,
Chairman Matthews. Senator Jacobson, an interruptible.
Whereas the point system fails to account for the quality, effort, or impact of student-led programming, reducing meaningful community engagement to an arbitrary point tally and effectively punishing organizations that cannot afford large-scale events, expensive incentives, or frequent participation in pre-prescribed activities. Whereas under the point system, organizations must front between 20% to 80% of event costs, a financial burden that can exclude low-income students and force members to personally subsidize public campus events, effectively privatizing a public student funding model and undermining accessibility. Whereas the point system was introduced without meaningful deliberation or approval by the
Chairman
Student Senate.
Matthews.
That is not how she stated it 2 sessions ago. And bodily constitutionally entrusted with legislation authority over all student funding policies as stated in Articles 3, Section 1 of the Student Government Constitution. And whereas concerns have been raised regarding conflicts of interest, inequitable design, and potential misuse of the system, including the favoring of Greek-affiliated organizations and
Senator Matthews.
where students may feel compelled to forge receipts or inflate reimbursement requests due to flawed incentives. Whereas USC's first-year experience is consistently ranked as one of the best in the nation, in large part due to the vibrant, accessible student organization ecosystem, an ecosystem that this policy threatens to weaken by creating barriers to entry and growth for emerging or under-resourced groups. And whereas preserving and strengthening USC's student life is not only a priority, but a duty of this Student Senate and the LSC. Now therefore be it resolved by the 117th Student Senate that this legislative body firmly opposes the adoption of the point-based system, and we urge the Student Senate to urge the Treasurer to immediately suspend the implementation of the Student Organization Engagement Point System. And with that, I yield the well.
All right, continuing on with the period of open discussion, does any senator wish to bring a matter of attention to the body? Chairman Matthews.
Yeah, we'll be meeting and to be discussing this throughout the length of the summer. So every single one of you, Jacob, I encourage you to please join this group. We will be discussing alternatives or improvements to the point system as we have it now. It was a miscommunication by Ashley to say that this was being introduced like immediately. That was a miscommunication on her part. She did clarify that. But the system has not been decided yet, but we do need something to allow us to do partial funding, because we went through $340,000 this year and that was not a problem. We have $180,000 this coming year, and if we run out in December, I mean, you said this, you don't know who this system would benefit. It would benefit organizations who want to hold events in the spring. I think it was, 2 years ago when we ran out of money quite early on, and there was a pretty big uproar about that. We're trying to prevent that with some sort of partial funding system. The points system, as we discussed before Senate tonight, is a way or a solution to introduce public partial funding without implementing any kind of bias. The standards are objective, not subjective. It's attendance at Senate or attendance at workshops. It's really not that, and the requirements really aren't that crazy. You could get the 100% funding capabilities by September. It would not take that long. We can talk about the point system over the summer. There are a lot of cons, Jacob, and I completely agree with you. I don't love the system either. But it's what we've got right now, and we will continue to work on it as time goes on. And come August, we'll have something that works. I yield to questions, I suppose.
The chairman yields his time to questions. Are there any questions? If it's a question, can you go to the microphone? Sorry, just for transparency's sake.
Is that something discussed with the summer advisory?
Could be.
Okay.
I mean,
The main purpose of the summer advisory committee is to provide updates for executives throughout the summer and what they're working on. I think a general rule of thumb, which I will talk about in my announcements, is that if you have a question about anything, just reach out to the person who's in charge of it. We are all students here, we're all peers, and any person in this organization would love to have a conversation with you about the things that they do and why they do them.
Yeah, I was just wondering who's
Yeah.
going to discuss it over the summer.
Ashley is in Switzerland right now, across the seas, which is really nice. But once she gets back, we're going to talk with her, and we're gonna make some sort of group chat and find times throughout the summer that we can meet and talk about it. I mean, Aaron had some phenomenal ideas. Ashley was really receptive to them, and it's not a point system. There are alternatives, and we're going to be discussing them. At the end of the day, we all want to make sure that these orgs can get money that they need. And so that's a common goal that I think we can all get behind. Yeah, and I'll send that into the group chat whenever I get that organized. So whoever wants to join in this discussion, anybody is welcome. Outside of Senate too. It's more than just us.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you. Continuing with the period of open discussion, does any senator wish to bring a matter of attention to the body? Seeing none, we will now move into a period of announcements. Are there any announcements from the body? Okay, hearing none, I just have a few. Great job today, guys. I know that was a lot of Robert's Rules stuff, but hopefully y'all were able to follow along. We do have sweet treats up here in case you guys need anything. If you are a new senator, we have training immediately after this in my office. It shouldn't take longer than 15 minutes. And other than that, I hope you all have a great summer. I do just want to remind you guys that I'm here to answer questions. I was a senator, I was on finance committee, I was on actually all 8 committees and an ad hoc committee in my time in Senate, so I have done literally everything. I passed legislation the same way that you guys did. I have been in your shoes, so I understand where you are. So if you have any questions, please let me know. The ad hoc committee that was in was on increasing the student government budget and increasing the campus activity fee. So if you have any questions about that, please let me know because I spent hours and hours working on that. When it comes to the finance stuff, I hope you guys knew that at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. We all want student organizations to get funded, no matter their size, no matter their topic, no matter their event. So if you have questions about the funding stuff, I would really urge all of you guys to please come to me and ask me questions. Some of you guys have been asking me questions, and I hope that the answers I've given you have been informative and have helped educate you guys in these processes. It took me a really long time to understand all of them, and there are things today that I still don't understand, and there's things today that I really wish that I could fix. And it's been 3 years in this organization, and I still haven't come up with solutions to some of these problems. But a good conversation can really, truly take you a long way. And after my finals are done in 2 weeks, I'm gonna have nothing to do, and I'm gonna be locked up in my house in New Jersey. So you guys really should call me, because the only thing I can do in my town is basically sit in a McDonald's parking lot. So I will have free time, and I will be more than happy to discuss anything student government with you. But with that, I yield my time to questions. Are there any questions? Okay. Seeing no more questions, is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second? Without objection, the Senate will now stand adjourned until August 20th, 2025.